Today we're going to be talking about topic 13, which is the circulatory system. The circulatory system obviously has to do with the heart. The main functions of the circulatory system is to transport oxygen, nutrients, and other substances throughout the body, and it helps remove waste from tissues. How does the heart pump blood throughout the body? There are powerful contractions with this tissue right here that you can see. That's the myocardium. And that helps create powerful contractions since it's a muscle, and it pumps blood throughout the circulatory system. So the heart's divided into 4 chambers. Wall between them, called the septum, separates the right side, which is the oxygen poor side, from the left side, which is the oxygen rich side, and it prevents them from mixing. So here you can see that septum that prevents it. Atriums are right here, and then the ventricles are right here. So on each side of the septum, there's an upper and lower chamber. The upper chamber is the atriums. So think A going first. Atriums are up here. Here's the right atrium that gets the oxygen poor blood, and it's going to go down to the right ventricle, which is going to go up through here to the left, to the lungs, then to the left atrium from the lungs, which is oxygen rich, then to the left ventricle, which then pumps out of the heart, and then to the body. And then you can see the whole movement right here. Everywhere there's arrows is the way the blood is pumping. So there's these different valves that are in between the atrium and the ventricles, and this prevents blood from going backwards. So whenever it contracts, it opens up and the blood flows through, and then once the contraction stops, it's going to close right back up to prevent regurgitation, which means that it's preventing blood from going backwards, which isn't good. So here, the right side of the heart is going to pump oxygen poor blood from the heart to the lungs through pulmonary circulation. If you're Hispanic, you know the word pulmones means lungs. So pulmonary has to do with the lungs. So it's pulmonary circulation. So in the lungs, carbon dioxide is going to diffuse from the blood, and oxygen is going to reabsorb into the blood, and then it's going to flow to the left side. So in this picture right here, it's showing you that the oxygen poor blood is blue. This is a reminder that blood isn't blue. Just because they always show it as blue in these pictures does not mean that your blood is blue when it has no oxygen. It tends to be a very dark purplish color, maroon, burgundy, like dark, but it's never blue. Your red blood cells are called red blood cells for a reason. So other than pulmonary circulation, we also have systemic circulation, which is after the blood has pumped through the left side, it's going to go to the rest of the body. And you can see that here. So all these white lines are systemic and the black lines are pulmonary. So oxygen poor blood is going to pump through here, become oxygen rich. It's going to go to the left side, which is then going to pump out to the head, arms, and then to the legs. There's 3 major types of blood vessels. There is the capillaries, the veins, and the arteries. Arteries are the largest ones. They carry blood away from the body. So think arteries away. So only the pulmonary arteries are the ones that carry oxygen poor blood. All the rest of them are oxygen rich blood. So pulmonary arteries are the only exception to arteries having oxygen poor blood. Let me rephrase that because that probably sounded confusing. All arteries carry oxygen-rich blood to the rest of the body. The only ones that don't carry oxygen-rich blood are pulmonary arteries. They are carrying oxygen-poor blood to the lungs to then become oxygen-rich. Arteries have very thick elastic walls that they can withstand powerful pressure. So the blood constantly rushing through, it helps, it's able to withstand all that pumping and the contracting that's allowing the blood to go through. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels. Most capillaries are so narrow that they can only fit 1 blood cell through at a time. These are usually like in your fingers and your face. They're throughout most of your body that you have capillaries. They're everywhere. And like I said, they only allow one blood cell through at a time. They're so thin, they allow oxygen and nutrients to diffuse from the blood to the tissues fairly easily, and carbon dioxide and other waste products to move from the tissue to the blood. Veins are kind of the middle ground. So veins are kind of like the middle ground. After blood passes through the capillaries, it's going to go back to the heart through the veins. So veins carry oxygen poor blood back towards the heart. So blood often has to flow against gravity through the large veins in your arms and legs. Veins are the ones that you usually see right in your forearms, and you can see it right here in the leg part. Whenever you're kind of feeling faint or your blood pressure drops, they usually have you lay down on your back with your legs up. And the reason they do that is to allow the blood to flow with gravity. These are what your blood vessels basically look like. So these little hair-like ones are all around here that look very fuzzy. Those are your capillaries. This is your aorta, so it's the largest one right there, which is going to be connected to all your arteries, which you have your femoral right here. This is your carotid, which is the one that goes to your neck. And this is your brachial right here, which is going towards your arms. So all your major limbs have arteries that go that way. The veins are down here. You can kind of see them medium sized. This is usually where they take blood. This is carrying oxygen poor blood back to the heart. Remember, the arteries are taking oxygen rich blood and sending it towards your limbs. Blood pressure is when the heart contracts, it produces a wave of fluid pressure in the arteries known as blood pressure. So every time your heart contracts, that is what's being measured. Whenever they put that tight cuff on your arm, they're measuring how strong that wave, that fluid pressure is that's coming out of your arteries. So although the blood pressure falls in between whenever your heart's relaxing between beats, the system still remains under pressure because of how elastic your artery walls are. If your blood wants higher blood pressure, then what it's going to do is your brain's going to send an impulse telling your body to tighten up. So it's going to tell the arteries to like toughen up and get like stronger, and then it's going to allow more blood pressure. And then if it wants your blood pressure to drop, then it's going to do the opposite. It's going to loosen up. I always compare this to the hallways in school. Imagine if the hallways got thinner and everyone gets out of the class at the same time. That's going to be very compact and people are going to try to move quickly, but it's going to be very tight. Versus if the hallways got a little bit wider, then people would be able to move like a lot easier and a lot slower. It's not as people pushing through. So think of that like blood pressure. Higher blood pressure would be the walls, the hallway walls getting very thin. Low blood pressure would be the hallways opening up. Kidneys also regulate blood pressure by affecting the volume of the blood. This is triggered by hormones produced by the heart and other organs. So the kidneys remove more water from the blood and remove it by you peeing it out when blood pressure is too high. So they try to take out more water when your blood pressure is too high. Or they'll conserve more water when the blood pressure is too low. So the human body contains about 4 to 6 liters of blood. If you want to be able to picture that, think about the soda bottles they usually have at parties. So the 2-liter ones, it's about 2 or 3 of those. That's how much blood you contain in your body. About 55% of that total blood volume is straw-colored fluid called plasma. Plasma is about 90% water and then a bunch of different dissolved gases, salts, nutrients, and things like that. So most of your blood is plasma. The rest is red blood cells and stuff like that. There are 3 major types of circulatory diseases. So you guys need to know what these diseases are for your EOC. So the 3 common types are heart disease, stroke, and high blood pressure. So diseases of the circulatory system progress many years before they're even discovered. So tissues in the heart and brain begin to die within moments of their oxygen supply being interrupted. So damage to the heart muscle from a heart attack or the brain from the stroke can be fatal. So individuals with high blood pressure are at an increased risk for heart disease and stroke. Atherosclerosis I'll repeat that again so you know how to pronounce it. Atherosclerosis is plaque buildup in the artery walls, and it usually causes the arteries to stiffen up. Remember how I said that arteries are taking blood away from the heart? So if you have plaque buildup, it's basically like if a bunch of sixth graders just bundled up against a wall and it only allowed a single file line to pass through the hallway at a time. That's basically what's happening with atherosclerosis. That plaque buildup is causing only the blood cells to go in one single file at a line. So here you can kind of see the atherosclerosis. So this is plaque buildup. Let's say that plaque blows up, then you get a blood clot, and that's going to block it, and blood's going to go backwards, which you do not want. So that's going to stop circulation to that major limb, whatever it may be. A heart attack occurs in the heart muscles when they become damaged or possibly die. Heart attacks can also cause the SA or AV nodes, which is how your body contracts and beats in a certain way. It can affect that and cause it to beat out of normal coordinated beat. One more thing about the artery, I actually know somebody who has had plaque buildup to 90% of their major arteries twice. And every single time he gets cleared out, he thinks he can go back to eating terrible and it builds up again and he just gets it cleaned out again. But in reality, this is causing way more stress and damage on his arteries. And it probably will lead to him dying earlier on versus I know somebody else who had the same issue, got it cleared up once, done, he's eating healthy for the rest of his life and he's doing so much better. Drugs such as cocaine and cigarette smoking can also lead to heart attacks. Heart attacks are actually different between males and females. Most of the time, this is all males. So shortness of breath, chest pain, and pain in the neck, jaw, or left arm, this has to do with men. Females tend to feel nauseous and pain in the lower back and kind of some cramping. So there's very different symptoms towards males and females. A stroke is a sudden death of brain cells when the blood supply is interrupted. So usually you get a blood clot that happens in the blood vessel in the brain, and it usually affects the opposite side of whatever it's on. So let's say there's a blood clot on the right side of your brain, then it will affect the left side. And then the same for if there's a blood clot on the left side, then it affects the right side. So some strokes are caused by blood clots that block a blood vessel in the brain. Some of them it's a blood vessel breaking, causing bleeding in the brain. Symptoms of a stroke are severe headaches, numbness, dizziness, confusion, and trouble seeing or speaking. High blood pressure or hypertension is usually defined as a reading of 140/90 or higher. So hypertension doesn't really have any symptoms. You don't know you have it unless you go to the doctor regularly. Meanwhile, heart damage occurs as the heart struggles to push blood through. So using the hallway as a reference again, sometimes if you look at the walls, they're all messed up from people constantly walking through them or rubbing their book bags up against the walls. That's basically what's happening when you have high blood pressure. So since the blood is moving at such a strong pressure all the time, what's happening is basically those arterial walls are getting all damaged, and after a while, that damage is going to build and build and build until something happens. So common connections between cholesterol and circulatory diseases is if you have high cholesterol levels, along with other risk factors, you can get atherosclerosis, which can lead to heart attacks. So you got to keep it healthy. So preventing heart disease starts when you're young. I know a lot of you guys go to McDonald's to eat almost every day. You shouldn't be doing that. Try to eat a little bit healthier, less grease, less chips, things like that. That all helps prevent all of these major issues happening. Also, exercising strengthens your heart muscles and helps to keep your circulatory system work efficiently. My cousin was a runner throughout college and high school, and even now he still kind of runs. His heart muscles are so strong that his heart would beat at 50 beats per minute. That's a low heart rate, but that means that's how strong his heart was. It didn't need to pump very high in order to allow blood to pump throughout his body. So Exercise, whether it's walking, um, it's jogging, it's running, just regular exercise helps keep your heart going and your system working efficiently.